Hey there, kids. It's time to sit because Battleground Casual is on. Here's Aaron or Matt. Look at that. Who
That,
made that?
that
That
was
was
painful.
beautiful. That was
That was
beautiful.
painful. Well, it's better
That
than
was
playing the intro for the other show every episode.
Martin Scorsese filmed it. Adele sang it. It's beautiful.
What was the voice? Adele from the album '67. Is that
Yeah. Yeah, that was the Lost song from her newest album.
Jesus? Go easy on me, ladies and
Beautiful.
gentlemen. Welcome back to Battleground Casual. This is the 9th episode of our show where we discuss the latest in movies and movie news. My name is Aaron Knoll, joined, of course, as always, by I'm presuming basically the color commentator at this point, Matt Beer. Matt, how you doing this week?
I'm doing good, Aaron. It's time for another Battleground Casual with some new people on. Should be fun. Even though Jake and Chris aren't necessarily new, we do have one new face to the show, which is pretty exciting. Got some fun stuff to talk about. Trust me, if you weren't on, I had, and I don't have it in here anymore, obviously, I had a strobe light. It was going to be a party. But then you were going to come on. I was like, well, you're hosting, so I'll just get rid of the strobe light.
Yeah, save that for your private time. We'll go ahead
Oh, yeah.
and bring in the panel with us tonight. As mentioned, we do have a first-time guest here on the show joining us because the match we were supposed to record got canceled. Caleb Hansen is here with us. Caleb, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Thanks, man. I'm doing good now that I'm home and don't have to worry about arguing against people. So I'm definitely relieved, actually, a little bit, because I just came from work and rushed home thinking I had to fight two people, and now we're just gonna have some conversations about stuff that I don't know about.
Fair enough. Yeah, and before we introduce our other guests, I'm going to take a second to address this at the top. In the last match that was uploaded, the 150th match, I had said that the first match back from our week-long break, which was supposed to go up this Monday, was going to be the first three-way match of Movie Battleground between Caleb Hansen, Alex Martinez, and Andy Sweet. Unfortunately, the match, the recording itself didn't work out, and the match itself is not going to work out. Anyone who's been a part of the show knows that sometimes things happen behind the scenes that leads to a match getting canned. We've had a couple over the course of the show's run. It happens from time to time. In this instance, so to explain it, first off, Andy Sweet has made the decision for the foreseeable future to step away from Movie Battleground as a competitor. He is. We've had a couple of matches scheduled for him over the last few months. For anyone who doesn't know, he was supposed to be in the tournament last year. He was supposed to take the 10th seed that played Alec Miller. But because of scheduling issues connected to his job, he works a high-intensity job, and I believe he's also taken a promotion in the last few months. He became unavailable, and we replaced him with Noah McCausland in that tournament. We also had a match that was scheduled for him towards the end of the season in November or December that got canned. He was able to play earlier this season. He did come back and play a match. But then since then, we've had this match, which has sort of been on hold for a bit, and we've been trying to get it together. And so for him, at least, it wasn't going to work out again tonight. We knew that ahead of time. And he's made a decision just so that we don't have to keep canceling matches, is essentially how he put it. He's going to step away for a while. So I do want to say thank you, Andy. I appreciate everything that you've brought to the league. And as I said to him, and as I say to everybody, who competes, the door is always open for more. So I'm sure as soon as he can, he will return. Speaking of somebody return, sitting right next to me, you'll get that in a few weeks. But we're happy to have him back. Then we were just going to play with Caleb versus Alex, but unfortunately Alex, due to some circumstances around him, is going to be a little less available over the next couple of weeks, including tonight, unfortunately, at the last minute. So we've just made a decision to disband the match. Alex will get a new opponent in a couple of weeks to play against, which means the match will go up a little bit after that. Caleb, I'm hoping you want to stick around and play as well. If you want to tell me on air that you don't, I'll take it like a man.
No.
But No. But yeah, so we're going to just get both of these guys new opponents, new matches. We'll start from scratch, and you will see them back for their first appearances this season, hopefully sooner rather than later. I meant to say that off air, but we just got so busy just talking that I forgot to. But yeah, so we'll get Caleb a new match, and we'll figure all that out. Also joining us behind the scenes, we have Chris Diaz and Jake Reese, who have been here before, but they're going to round out the discussion panel because we have... what was it? We have two big topic points of discussion, as well as some smaller things to fill in at the start. Star Wars Celebration is this weekend. It's still actively ongoing over in the UK, going through Monday. I believe it's Friday to Monday this year. So more may come out, but we're going to cover what's come out so far from the event. And then in addition to that, Dungeons and Dragons came out last week, which means, as we said, for this 8-week period of consistent films, we're going to do a spoiler review every single week. So Dungeons and Dragons we'll talk about later. That will be the last thing we'll talk about in the show. We're going to cover the movie news first. Jake, Chris, thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having. That's a bummer about Andy. He's a loss I have on my record that I want to avenge at some point. So hopefully he'll be back sooner than later.
Well, so just like you just gotta stalk him and keep bothering him, and eventually he'll come back.
That's what Aaron did to me.
Like Cameron and Ferris Bueller.
Like Matt Damon and
I made weekly drives to Indiana just to convince Matt again.
He showed up at my door. Cops got involved.
Every Battleground match I've ever missed, it's because I'm in Indiana.
And he's in
and Matt's internet's always down, so my internet was of course down. So
of course.
Yeah. Of course.
Just operating off of the hotspots.
Date would be like Matt Damon. Just show up without no phone call needed. Just show up at your house.
You're my Viola Davis, Matt.
Yeah. You're my Viola Davis to my Matt Damon.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And
totally
I don't know.
Understand that reference.
Jake, you're Ben Affleck. You want that?
Yeah.
I like that guys and Jason Amy.
Yeah,
right.
It's like minus the bad wig that Ben Affleck wears.
That
in the
perm
movie.
was beautiful.
Oh, it was
okay,
gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
That perm was that perm's gonna win a Best Supporting Actor award.
It will, or a Razzie. I could see one of the nominees.
Actually, it probably could get nominated for a Razzie. They do that.
Yeah, even though Ben Affleck is really good in the movie, you'll see one of the nominations for Best Supporting Actor. Ben Affleck and his bad perm.
Or what is it? Best screen pairing? Is that where they often do it? Ben Affleck.
A worst screen pairing. That's what it is.
Ben Affleck and his feet on screen.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go for the Ben Affleck's.
Oh, I thought you had to pay extra for that.
Ben Affleck's perm. Ben Affleck. Yeah, the ticket was actually more expensive than the ticket.
Yeah. They upcharged a couple bucks for the
Ben Affleck fee. With the release of Air on Wednesday, Ben Affleck became the most viewed patron of WikiFeed.
That is true.
I thought Margot Robbie hit
it's
that.
Quentin Tarantino's favorite
trailer.
film.
Quentin Tarantino has exclusively just looked at pictures of Ben Affleck's feet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He just entered my theater when it was playing, just on the feet scenes, and then he would leave after those scenes. He knows exactly when it is. But
what actually happened is, if for anyone who got enjoyment out of seeing Ben Affleck's feet in Air, which is not the topic of discussion tonight, but we were talking about it before we went live, what you've really learned from this movie is that Phil Knight didn't wear shoes a lot. So there's a whole window of opportunity to go find those pictures. If you
I think Tarantino was a ghost director. Tarantino was what they call him, the ghost director. If you want to see
the studio head of Leica's father's feet, look.
And go see that. You know how people say that in Revenge of the Sith, Steven Spielberg, he directed a couple scenes, like the scene where Anakin's looking out the window. Well, Tarantino only directed the scenes of Ben Affleck with no shoes.
Ben Affleck's,
and it's just his feet.
I feel like we're overlooking that Quentin doesn't like dude feet. Like that's the.
I think we got.
I've never heard that specification.
I thought we got Austin Butler's feet in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, see,
I thought so.
Yeah, but
I love how there's one person watching right now, and they hopped in right as we were talking about Ben Affleck's feet. It's like, oh boy, Star Wars Celebration news.
Look,
and
Dungeons and Dragons. Got a great set.
The gist of this conversation is, yes, go watch Air for the story of Michael Jordan and Nike. Yes,
And
you
Ben
could go
Affleck's
watch Air to understand how the fuck Leica funds their films, despite the fact that they don't make money.
Yeah.
Instead, you could go, because if anyone didn't know that, Phil Knight's son is the head of Leica. For anyone who didn't get that,
that might have named something.
Phil Knight's basically funding that studio to keep losing money because his son has a passion project.
Yeah, he's a good dad, but he likes also paying college players to go to Oregon too. That's another thing.
Maybe Matt Damon.
But the real reason to go see Air is not the origin story of anything. It's just to see the bare soul of Ben Affleck's feet.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
It.
It is
go
full frontal.
Also go see what might be one of the best screenplays of the year so far.
You get to see the toes wiggle. It's
see every wrinkle, and wait for the director's cut of Air, where you see every little wrinkle.
I'm gonna have to pass on this movie.
30 minutes of feet.
Oh man, I can't wait.
By the way, while we're objectifying Ben Affleck, if you want to see Ben Affleck in the shortest shorts you've ever seen him wear,
then watch it.
Now that I will
want to check out Air.
Yeah. There's literally a scene where Ben Affleck's sitting at his desk, and he goes, "Jennifer, get Claudia in here. My feet need attention."
If you want to see Ben Affleck, even Matt Damon doing a German accent for a joke, go see it.
Can we just keep talking about Ben Affleck's feet? 'Cause we're going up in views. Like that, we're going up in views.
The view count is getting better.
There's a huge market for that.
Well, we'll talk about it. Jonathan Peck asked, "Is it the best film that Ben Affleck ever directed?"
No, I don't think so.
I need to see again to get Venture.
I answering the question seriously, I'd say it's probably his second best next to The Town. I do think it's slightly better than Argo. To answer non-seriously, absolutely, because the man knows how to frame feet. Well, also,
absolutely true.
If you
get that slow pan,
my favorite part is my brother turned to me part of the way through the movie, and he just and every once in a while, my brother will say a gem during the movie. He'll have a thought that's like brilliant. He turns to me and he just goes, "If you didn't know that Ben Affleck directed this, you'd figure it out because his character has all the best needle drops."
Oh yeah.
Like all the best songs are when Ben Affleck is walking into a room as Phil Knight.
For sure.
I learned you need a good comedy to add Chris Messina in more movies more often. He easily still lots of good laughs.
All right, so let's move on. So this show is going to be different from normal because, as we just discussed, I was not supposed to be here. Actually, the original plan was for Matt and a member of the team, Madi or Raymond, to co-host the show together. But at the last minute, the match got canceled, and simultaneously, Madi got called back into the hospital for work. So, Madi, we wish you the best. That's a tough job, man. Keep it up. So I'm here, he's not, and Matt's the one who actually prepped the show this week instead of myself. So he's got all the write-ups over there.
All the notes. That's why we talk about Ben Affleck's feet specifically.
Yeah. That's the first story.
Oh, you're blocking it. Get your stupid face out of the way. Give us that glory. There you go.
How'd you find that so quickly?
My parents are probably going to, they're going to go, because I'm on their Wi-Fi, they're going to go on their phones. They're going to see, okay, what has Matt looked at? Ben Affleck's feet.
Oh, my God.
Wonderful. Fantastic.
Just get a text. Matt, why are you Googling Batman's feet? What?
Wait, who Googled Robert Pattinson's feet?
It did Ben Affleck's Secret Edition.
I can't tell if Matt just is holding that shit-eating grin or if he lost.
If he froze. I can't tell.
This is like a great start to the episode.
Absolutely. Oh boy, that's great. Matt, the host of the show froze, the one with all the talking points. So that's
somehow not high enough yet.
I roughly know what he was gonna say. There we go. All right, so here let's
Who
start
else's
with
feet
it.
should we talk about?
I forget which one he said he was gonna start with, but before we get to the trailers, because I think one of them was a Lucasfilm trailer. Let's start with the Harry Potter news that came out this week, which is so over the last couple of weeks, there have been rumors persisting that apparently Warner Brothers were attempting to pursue an adaptation of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is the pseudo sequel to the books that was turned into a stage play. And there was a lot of kind of public discourse about it because both Emma Watson and Daniel Radcliffe had very publicly said they had no interest in returning to the role. Rupert Grint hadn't been as adamant, but he's also been getting paid recently, so I'm sure he wasn't looking for it as much as he was a couple years ago. Thank you, M. Night Shyamalan, for bringing him back. That's the one good thing you've done this year. No, I'm kidding. Was not Knock at the Cabin decent? Was that joke?
It's not that bad.
It was on par with a Shyamalan like horror flick.
Fair enough.
Jonathan Groff and the other guy did it.
So yeah, but it's seemingly none of the people you would need to make this work are interested. That's kind of what the discourse around it is. Now, I'm sure if we backed up Robert Downey Jr. money to their house, they'd say yes.
Oh yeah.
Especially because I think Daniel Radcliffe's having a kid now. He's going to need that money. But the discourse seems to be that it's not going to happen. Instead, Warner Brothers has pivoted and is decided to do a reboot of the Harry Potter films. Now, this is going to be done as a series that will go to HBO Max in a similar manner as to what Disney is doing with the Percy Jackson reboot. The plan is to do one book a season, and it'll be about 8 to 10 episodes a season at the very most, probably dependent on how long the book is. So the idea being that as long as this is a success, they have a guaranteed 7-season show to anchor the HBO Max streaming service going forward. Matt just texted me. My connection took a dump on me. Fuck yeah, it did.
Pretty much Warner Brothers to a dump on a Harry Potter fan with that scene.
All right, so back to the story. I'll see what he says. I think there's two ways of looking at this personally. There's the business side, which nobody ever wants to think about, and there's the fan side. The fan side of me says that this is, well, actually, there's two sides to the fan side, quite frankly. Okay, so there's the movie fan, the fan, and then there's the business side, right?
Mm-hmm.
The movie fan, because I do enjoy those films, says that it's too soon. It's only been 12 years since the last one came out. That feels incredibly soon to start rebooting. And I wonder if they're making a mistake, because the people who grew up with that franchise, like I grew up with those films and I'm 23. Like these people are still relatively young. And so to reboot it that soon does seem a little quick. This is also coming from the studio that announced a few weeks ago they're looking at rebooting The Lord of the Rings. So what do they know at this point? But that's kind of the plan that they have moving forward. So there's that end of it. Now, the fan of the series, as in the books, because I have read the books. I don't come off as a Harry Potter fan, but I actually have read all of them. I love the books. I don't hate it, only because the movies, I think, are great adaptations, but they are exactly that. They are adapted versions of these books, cutting out everything that you don't need in a 2-hour film. And in some instances, I think they make mistakes and cut out things you may have needed. So I don't hate the idea of giving a different creative with a longer platform a chance to take a stab at it.
I just fear that they're going to go the Rings of Power route and just like totally change things and not really like give a crap. Or they're going to go like too far into the books and be like, oh, this episode's about the history class that's taught by the
Maybe we finally get to see Peeve on HBO.
I mean, we're definitely getting Peeves in that show if it happens. But like,
and Ben, we get Ben as well.
Yeah, so
but also I understood why they cut those things. So
and so there's the fan side of it, which honestly doesn't hate it, and then there's the business side of it, which says Warner Brothers is a studio in mass amounts of debt.
Yeah.
DC's not doing it for them right now. And if none of these films hit this year, it's gonna be a couple years before one does hit. Because even I don't think Joker 2 is guaranteed to me.
That
Yeah.
next year.
So I'll address it here. It's looking like Matt's internet may have crapped out completely, and hotspot included. I don't know if he'll be able to get back in. Here, Matt, I'm gonna rather than you jumping in through StreamYard itself, I'm gonna send you a link. See if that works. He did send me the show notes though.
Cool.
If need be. So we'll go forward from there. So yeah, so Warner Brothers desperately needs to make money.
Yeah, definitely needs a hit.
And the Fantastic Beasts films didn't do it. And people forget they've spent the last year, because they put out this big thing last year where it was like, we want to continue the universe of the Wizarding World, and we're willing to hear every idea. And there have been stories about over the past year of different creatives going in and giving their pitches of what to do with the Wizarding World. And clearly none of them are either fleshed enough or intriguing enough to move forward with. And so I think Warner Brothers is taking the safe bet, because David Zaslav has already made it clear that he doesn't want original films anchoring HBO Max. He wants films to belong in theaters.
Right.
And so rebooting one of your biggest properties as a cinematic style show in the way that Disney Plus is anchored by The Mandalorian and everything we're going to talk about with Star Wars, I think that it's a smart business move, because I think whether people like it or not, at the very least with the first season, they're going to check it out because of morbid curiosity. They're going to want to see what they've come up with because they've pushed through. Like, and by the way, I don't want to jump too deep into it because I know the J.K. Rowling of it all is a thing. We've seen that these protests don't work, right? There was a very big vocal movement against Hogwarts Legacy, and it was still a massive success.
It is a really good game.
And that's all I'll say on that, right? Is it's no matter what you think of J.K. Rowling on a personal level, and I don't agree with anything that she said. I don't think she should be involved at all going forward. With that said, if it's a good product, it doesn't matter. It's going to succeed. And so I think that this is a smart decision. Now, I've said a lot because I've sort of just been giving my thoughts. So I'll throw it over to you guys. What are your thoughts? Caleb, Chris, I know you guys are fans. Jake, I don't know how much you are. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
So, Caleb, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
So I've been a Harry Potter fan since I was a kid. I read all the book. I own all the movie. All 8 movie. Fantastic Beasts I do not own for a lot of reasons, specifically. But I do love Harry Potter. I think I look at it 2 ways. I think it could work HBO. I think you get the right creator, the right writer, the right cast. I think if before HBO was something like the Dark Material, where it's much better than to go to Comfort Story. It's a really good show. They did great with The Last of Us, taking a popular video game, making it a really good show on HBO. So HBO had the clear budget money to do it. So I think, how can you replace Alan Rickman? How can you play any of the cast who passed away, or what they made their role so famous for? Bobby Coltrane.
Not even those people that passed away, but they'd have to replace Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson too.
I mean, it could work. I think would I love to see more Quidditch? Would I love to see a lot of things that we'd never seen in the movie? Yes. I think, can we get more faithful adaptation of Half-Blood Prince and Order of Phoenix than what the movie did? Yes. But at the same time, I hate J.K. Rowling. I don't like him anymore, even though I still say I don't like him. I thought they did a great job this year with Hogwarts Legacy. I've been playing it, and it's a really good game. Despite, and she wasn't involved with it that much. So I think if they do it right, they can do it right. And I hope they do it right, because I would love to see Harry Potter again. And who knows, we might get another season for Church Child if they want to cap it all out. But yeah, we wait and see. There's a long way to go before we get official confirmation of everything.
For sure.
That's fair.
So I'm a bit more skeptical myself. I think, especially given the track record of massive fandom things getting expanded. Every time you expand it, it doesn't work out great. And Warner Brothers specifically does not have a good track record of calling their shots of, we're going to have at least 7 seasons guaranteed. Like, they do not have a good track record of being able to pull those types of things off. Yes, they've been doing good with their shows lately. But I mean, this would have to, like, I feel like Harry Potter kind of went the same way as Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, where it's like it's too overpopulated now, so that there's so much bad taste in your mouth. Like, why do you want to go back and redo the one good thing? But I don't know. I would prefer to see something like let's go see whatever Victor Crumb's school is like, or something like that.
Or do a Hogwarts Legacy, but in a TV show.
Yeah, like 100%. Like, retreading the books though seems really kind of desperate and lazy.
Or Lily and Jane Potter do a prequel thing about.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us Snape's backstory. I'll take that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like so, and this is the other thing which I'll throw. Jake, by the way, I wanted to go to you. I don't know how big a Potter fan you are, but do you have any thoughts before I go into my next sort of point with this?
Yeah, no, you're good. I'm actually pretty high on the series. It just it doesn't seem to come up a lot in my geek matches, I guess. But yeah, I'm pretty good at it. I love the books. I'm okay. Like, I like the movies quite a bit. Haven't seen them in a minute, but yeah, I think this is a cool. Not necessarily a cool idea. It's obviously not like super unique or anything, but I'm for it on the business side, as you mentioned. I'm for it as a fan overall. Like, because who were Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson or Rupert Grint before Harry Potter? No one. So we get new no ones to make Harry, Ron, and Hermione. I think that's doable. So it's been what, 13 years you said since the last flick?
And 23 years since the first one.
Yeah. So it's been over 20 years since we've seen them as kids. And by the time it gets to book 7, it'll be 20 years since we've seen them at that age too. So I think 2 decades is plenty enough time to do a remake.
I mean, sure, but like, if you watched any of the like HBO specials and the reunion and the documentaries, like, literally everybody is like, we got so lucky that we cast these kids and that they were this good. Like, you think lightning's really gonna strike twice?
Right.
I feel like they're gonna have people that are literally living as like Ron and Hermione. Like, they were literally living that lifestyle like before.
And anyone who doubts that HBO to do a book series to TV series really well, like Harry Potter, I've watched the dark material. They took like the Golden Compass movies were not good. And
but see, the Golden Compass wasn't good. That's the point.
Yeah, but then they took the book series and actually does a lot more. The TV show actually is.
I get I do get what you're saying, Caleb. There's a difference between taking something that wasn't done well and doing it correctly, and trying to readapt something that was already done well.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
It was done like to the point that like literally the whole cast and crew is like.
If you have a good track record,
we couldn't see it without anybody. They do, yeah. I'm just trepidatious.
Yeah. So the other point that I had was, so recently, just for my own enjoyment's sake, I did a rewatch of the films, and obviously the films. I know the books are a little more connected, but something that I sort of noticed is, and I think it's a little bit like this in the book as well, is it seems like they, to a certain extent, the character arcs were very much planned by Rowling when she was writing the books, but the stories kind of seem to just be developed as they went. And so there are elements of, and especially so in the movies where you can't bring everything over, there are elements that just sort of randomly appear and disappear depending on what movie you're in and what needs to happen taking place with the plot. And so one of the things that I sort of thought of is, if you were readapting this, I think, this is just me, I think something they should do is sort of adapt it on a whole, right? Like, if you're going to write it, sit down and kind of plan it out from the jump. And this is one of the biggest things that like book fans hate to hear. Make changes to the story. Make it something slightly different so that you can plan things out ahead of time. You know what I mean? So like one of the biggest examples is
The Last of Us.
Oh my God, what the fuck is Pattinson's name in those films?
Cedric Diggory.
Cedric Diggory, right? Diggory, even in the books, I believe he's introduced in the third one as like a minor character, but he's only really introduced to you in the fourth book where he dies. But Harry does have connections in the books to other kids from other houses. I think an adaptation point that would be smart is to introduce Diggory earlier. Even if he's not a major character, the idea that by the time he becomes relevant to the plot, he's someone you're already familiar with, so that you're not having to take time to also introduce and make you care about this character and establish why him and Harry develop a connection and then kill him by the end of it all. Spoiler alert, I guess, if you don't know the plot of Goblet of Fire, but you know what I mean? So, like, and I think there's things you can do. I do think to an extent, and I would say this even for the books, the Harry-Ginny romance is not developed at all until they begin developing it. And again, the films did it even worse. But it is something that just sort of kind of comes out of nowhere. Whereas I think if you sort of adjust things slightly, you can set that up a bit better than just she's had a crush on him her whole life and he just kind of eventually goes, oh, fuck, she's hot, isn't she? All right, yeah. Let's go bang my friend's sister. And so... So I'm curious what you guys think, as like, especially Chris and I play Caleb. You've read the books, right? I think you said as well.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. As book fans, if they did sort of take that approach and they did make slight changes here or there in order to make an overall connective story that is slightly different from the books to sort of create a new experience of this thing, would that be a turnoff to you, or would it make it possibly better?
No, because I was just putting out the example before. A show on HBO that took material and made different things that made it a lot better. The Last of Us this year, like they took some characters, some plot, and they changed stuff for the better. I thought that was really great. HBO known to be doing stuff. Well, at Bill and I forget his partner name, The Last of Us, like that whole episode 3.
Oh, Bill and Frank, or
the best episode, one of the best episodes of television the last couple of years, and they so different for the game. So I think they could do that with Harry Potter. They could even do maybe a couple of seasons of Damon Lily before the events of Harry Potter leading up to, you know.
I don't think you're getting multiple prequel seasons with Lily Potter, Chris. I'm sorry. I think they're just going to go for... You may get an episode. Like, I totally buy if they're doing 8 to 10 season episodes that whenever that backstory... Like,
I looked at House of Dragon last year. Great example.
Like, well, no, not half a season. I think you're overstepping, but...
I do like that concept though of the like The Last of Us kind of did those like vignette episodes where it was like almost an entirely disconnected story that just was happening in the same world, and then like occasionally Joel and people would come through. Right. I'd be very interested in that concept of Hogwarts, like, and introducing people that will be big in later seasons, like you were saying with Cedric Diggory and stuff,
right?
And giving them a little bit of time to shine. That actually is really exciting to me. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like I agree. If we're just doing straight based on the book readaptation again, because I do think what the books brought over, they did pretty much to a T and well. So I think what you're going to be stuck with is a lot of the series feeling repetitive, and then everyone's like, you know, the later seasons you'll get, is it SPEW? Is that what the acronym is with the L's?
Yeah.
Like, that's new. That subplot will be new, and, you know, Ron and Hermione's romance will actually develop naturally. But everything else will just sort of feel repetitive. And so I think that there are ways that you can go at this where you don't have to just make it, and that's what I hope they do.
Books 1 and 2, I could see that being a struggle. After that,
because 1 and 2 are damn near perfect adaptations. They pretty much.
I mean, since they're the books are so small. Yeah,
I think they like the movie. They make little changes. I like Slughorn a lot more in the movie than they do in the book, and I like the little changes they made to him number 6. Like,
sure, but again, you're talking about the 5th season, and Warner Brothers again doesn't have a great track record of...
I mean, there's only like 12 chicks Harry's age. It's a dice roll that it could have been Jenny.
It's a dice roll. Hey, I think the Harry Seamus love story is something we didn't tap into. Okay?
That's fair.
Seamus likes to make things go boom. Harry could be one of them. No, kidding. All right, so we'll move on to another segment of the show. We'll jump into very briefly. We'll talk about some of the trailers that came out this week because there were a couple of big ones. We'll start with we're talking about television. Let's start with the television trailer, which is the MCU dropped the first trailer for Secret Invasion, which was originally set for a spring debut. We've kind of missed that deadline. It's now going to come out in the summer as a part of the reshuffling of their schedule and delaying of certain projects. With Secret Invasion, we see Nick Fury return to Earth, purportedly in the universe for the first time since Avengers Endgame, at which point he left following Tony Stark's passing, to can only be described as a war against the Skrulls. Multiple members of the MCU return in their various roles, including Ben Mendelsohn, Colby Smulders, Don Cheadle, and Martin Freeman. We also know that the series is adding Olivia Colman as a member of a British agency who is an ally of Fury's. Amelia Clarke, who was long thought to be playing the comics character of Amelia Bradshaw, is actually playing the grown-up daughter of Ben Mendelsohn's Talos in the series. And of course, we have the villain Kingsley Ben-Adir, who will be playing the first version of a Super Skrull in the MCU. Secret Invasion is set for a tentative release in the summer. There is no confirmation as of a date, as far as I'm aware, unless they've announced it since the trailer came out.
June 21st was the date that they've been saying.
Okay, have they started saying a date? I didn't see that, but there we go. So June 24th is 24th. June 21st is looking more than likely. I don't have much to say except this trailer looks dope. It's 2 minutes. It's still very secretive. Secret Invasion. But I think it looks cool. I very publicly said before that for me, The Winter Soldier is my favorite movie in the MCU, and anything that can match that serious vibe that movie brings, I'm inclined to enjoy. And this trailer looks like it's going to bring that in spades. I look forward to this show hopefully taking characters that have sort of been backseaters and using them well. Good actors like Colby Smulders and Martin Freeman have been around for years but not done very much, so it'll be cool to get to see them be front and center in something. And I mean, I think Olivia Colman's a great addition. I think Kingsley Ben-Adir is a great up-and-comer. I think he'll do well. For me, the big question mark is Amelia Clarke. Game of Thrones fans will swear by her performance in that show, but quite frankly, I have not seen her give a good performance in anything outside of that show. So I'm not convinced by her yet, personally. I'm hoping this show does it. But that's the one question mark that lasts for me. What were your guys' thoughts on the trailer? Whoever wants to hop on first.
You got to go first.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Looked badass. I was just throwing up the horns the whole time. I'm like, fuck yeah. That's about all I got to say. Nothing clever. Just fucking looks awesome.
Fair enough.
So I was watching the trailer right before we started, so I didn't even watch the whole thing, but it certainly looks interesting. I'm pretty excited. I don't know. I feel like we've waited a long time for Secret Invasion, and hopefully I'm not getting my hopes too high, but it looks pretty gosh darn cool. Amelia Clarke's okay. Like, I don't think she's like a great actress, but I think she'd be kind of cool. And especially since she's going to be Abigail Brand, like that's it seems like she's going to be a big part moving forward then. And yeah, I don't know. And we're getting Super Skrull.
And surprise, we have Amelia Clarke in stream.
Oh, that'd be great,
God,
especially considering what Aaron and I just said about her.
Yeah. So I am onto mine here. The trailer looks good. I kind of been burnt out with Marvel show lately because every time I get my hope up, they've been not great. She-Hulk was not good.
She-Hulk's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Loki was good. I thought WandaVision was great. I thought Miss Marvel was probably my favorite out of them. But everything else been hit and miss for me. I had my hope. Love the cast. Love King Ben-Adir. Nobody has seen One Night in Miami. He gives such a great performance.
Yeah, it's a great performance.
Yeah, he should have been nominated for that, quite honestly. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like, I think keep my expectation low until the first episode, see how it goes from there. Because we've seen shows start great and then go badly. Look at you, Moonlight. Look at you. A couple of shows that ended pretty badly, despite great beginning, middle.
Mhm.
All right. So then we'll move on to the second trailer of this bunch. We'll keep it in the superhero realm and move over to Blue Beetle, which saw its debut trailer this week. The film, which stars Cobra Kai's Xolo Maridueña, will be the first, purportedly, according to James Gunn, this is the first film that is definitively set outside of the DCEU, despite the fact that it was previously classified as a DCEU film. Apparently, there are so few ties in it to the previous universe that Gunn has decided to keep the movie. Of course, this is a movie whose good news just continues to get better and better. Initially, the film was developed for HBO Max. Then, prior to the change in regime, they were so happy with what the film was starting to look like that they gave it a budget upgrade and put it into theaters. And now, purportedly, it means it's going to be kept long term. The film also stars the likes of Susan Sarandon, George Lopez, and for all you Puss in Boots: The Last Wish fans, Harvey Guillen is also in this. In the Shadows. The film is set to release on August 18th, 2023. The premise is after Jamie Reyes graduates from college and returns to his hometown of Palmyra City, he is chosen to become a symbiotic host to the Scarab, an ancient alien biotechnological, good fuck, that's a long word, relic that grants him a powerful exoskeleton armor, turning him into the superhero, the Blue Beetle. The trailer was good. I honestly don't have very many thoughts on this because I don't know a lot about the character. But what I'll say is the vibe that it seems like it's shooting for is somewhere between Spider-Man and Venom. Like, he feels like he's playing a very Tom Hollandish type character, but the way that they're going about visually representing it feels very Venom. And I don't hate it. I think it does look good. The budget upgrade is certainly helping. The CGI looked good in the trailer, which is a big thing, because oftentimes trailers look like crap and the movie can sometimes look better, but even this trailer I thought looked good.
Okay,
So what are your guys' thoughts?
So, Theta, you want to go first?
I was just gonna start talking, but it doesn't matter. I thought it looked like fun. I don't know that it looked any like necessarily better than Injustice 2 or anything, but like the armor looks slick. It looks like a fun romp. I'm kind of glad it's not going to be tied in to the larger universe. Although it doesn't make a ton of sense, like from my comic book brain, why they would go straight to Jaime Reyes without any Ted Kord or anything. Especially like they showed the Blue Beetle ship in the trailer and everything. Like Ted Kord made that. Where'd that come from? But who cares? I think Susan Sarandon looks like she's having a good time, and I always like when she's having a good time. I don't know. George Lopez is in it. That's gonna be interesting. I just like setting my expectations at like I'll enjoy this, but I probably won't watch it more than like 2 or 3 times.
Fair enough. Jake, Chris?
I'm like the trailer. I don't hate the Batman line like a lot of my friends do. It made me laugh a little bit. Like,
oh, the Batman's a fascist.
Yeah. Help Joe Lopez. He makes stuff funny sometimes. Like, and I like the Joe Lopez. I like the family aspect. Kind of remind me a little bit of Miss Marvel, but that family dynamic, that they all care about each other. A little bit why we don't know it. Like, it's Susan Sarandon the whole villain the whole time, or they pull Black Adam something on that and not show us the villain until you see the movie type of thing.
Right.
That's become my worry lately with some trailers with DC. Like, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love Miguel from Cobra Kai. I always forget the actor name, but I've been a big fan of him since Cobra Kai. Took me a minute to realize that with him because I've been watching Cobra Kai since the beginning. Like, but and I like everything else, so I'm looking forward to it. My second forward to for DC Flash is above it a little bit for most thing I'm looking for DC this year. Like, but yeah, so much for me. Like,
all right, and then Jake.
I'm pretty fucking geeked for this one. I had been pulling for our boy Xolo Mardraña to be cast as Jaime Reyes way before it happened. So I was fucking geeked when it did. I don't know why the beetle attaches itself to his back, though. We do know that is a weak point of Miguel's. Bad call, Beetle. Anyway, yeah, George Lopez, fucking funny. Always down to see him. Susan Sarandon looked great. You're not wrong. But 2 words: Buster Sword. Fucking, and then he even hits the fucking Final Fantasy VII pose, I think, in that. So, fucking, that's
nice
all I need. Fucking, yep, nice choice. Fucking,
yeah.
I'm pretty fucking geeked for that one, even though I'm more of a Marvel cat than DC usually.
I'll say despite my setting my expectations right directly in the middle, I think it definitely has the potential to be the next Shazam, which was a big surprise of a character that most people don't know, that just was I think it was the best movie in the DCEU.
Yes.
For a good while. It's one of my favorites, and I actually went back and watched it a lot. So I see the potential there. I'm not totally being a downer on it. I just, I don't know. From the trailer, it looks like a good dumb fun, but it could be a legitimately really good comic book movie.
True. So speaking of legitimately good comic book films, we'll move on to the 3rd trailer, which is Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. I'm going to read the plot synopsis because I need to know what the plot is. That's my biggest criticism with this trailer.
Right.
So the plot synopsis is: when Miles Morales is unexpectedly approached by his best friend and love interest, Gwen Stacy, to complete a mission to save every universe of spider people from a mysterious new villain who could cause a catastrophic disaster, Miles is up for the challenge. He and Gwen journey through the multiverse together and meet its protectors, a group of spider people known as the Spider Society, led by Miguel O'Hara. However, Miles finds himself at odds with Miguel and the Spider Society on how to handle the threat. Okay, so first off, I'm just going to get it out of the way. This movie looks beautiful. I was a little worried when the original directors, none of them came back for this new one, and I was kind of worried about that at first. But the new people they've gotten in, which for reference for anyone who doesn't know, Joaquim Dos Santos was a director on Avatar The Last Airbender and Voltron, amongst other shows.
Yeah.
Kemp Powers, actually, funny enough, you guys were talking about it. He's
Dragon
a screenplay
Prince.
writer who wrote One Night in Miami. He also wrote and co-directed Soul for Pixar, so he jumps from Pixar to Sony to work on this. And then Justin K. Thompson, the 3rd director, was actually the lead visual designer for the original film. He designed the look of the movie himself, so he's taken over as director now, too. The movie looks beautiful. The characters seem exactly the way that they did in the first one. I think the characters are in this. The new additions, Issa Rae, Daniel Kaluuya, Karan Soni, Jason Schwartzman, they all seem like they're going to stand out in cool ways. This is a horrible trailer in that it doesn't get across any sense of what this movie is supposed to be.
100%.
And the problem is, if it were like the first trailer, where it's just showing you all these cool visuals built up over this cinematic monologue being delivered by the mom, I wouldn't have an issue with it. The problem is, this trailer is trying to portray the plot of the movie to you, and it doesn't succeed. I have no idea what this movie's about. I had to literally go Google search the synopsis to try and make headways on what this trailer was trying to deliver, because it makes it seem like Miguel O'Hara is like a hero and an idol to these Spider-Men, but he's also a bad guy. But maybe Miles is a bad guy because they're all hunting him down. They're portraying Gwen Stacy as his love interest, but she's also in the shadows in shots. Jake Johnson is there, but he's in league with Miguel O'Hara, but he's also not, because Miguel O'Hara, there's clearly dialogue in there that shows that Miguel O'Hara is hiding stuff and changing the plan on Jake Johnson's Peter Parker. It's an incredibly confusing trailer to try and follow. So I recommend you just put it on mute, watch the visuals, and don't worry about the story till you show up in the theater, because I'm hoping to God it gets across better in the movie. It is written by the same people who wrote the first one, so I don't think that'll be a problem. Phil Lord and Chris Miller wrote the screenplay again, and with this one, they've also brought in Dave Callahan, who wrote Shang-Chi, which I think was an excellently written movie. Yeah. So I have faith in it. I just don't think this was a good trailer, quite frankly. Outside of the fact that it looked good, I don't think there's anything about it that would intrigue you to check out the film. What were your guys' thoughts, though? Because yours may have been different from mine, of course. For a movie that I love, I was shocked how negative I was on this.
Yeah. All right, I'll jump in on this one because I'll disagree. I think it maybe it's just because I fucking love the first movie and I'm a little more pre-knowledgeable of it, so maybe that's why it came across different. But it felt obvious to me that Miguel O'Hara is like a Mysterio figure where he starts off as the good guy and eventually it comes out that he is maybe not so much the good guy. So that is why the Spider League is being led by him and such. And then he turns to like shit, like the line that Peter B delivers. So like, Miguel, this is never part of the plan and shit. Like it seemed really clear to me that was that was the situation. And then I don't think like the characters don't look exactly the same. They like the thing I really love that they did with the animation that they clearly age. Like you can tell that Miles' hair is longer and stuff like that. And
sorry, I meant the portrayal of the character, not literally the design of the character.
Okay.
No, you're right.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah, but Peter B is not wearing a full sweat tracksuit anymore. They've evolved.
Yep. So I just because that looks as you mentioned, it looks gorgeous. But yeah, to me, the trailer just the trailer really hyped me up for it psyched me up, and I didn't have it wasn't confusing to me. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer a couple of times, especially in fun movies lately, like yesterday. But I like the trailer a lot. I think some of the humor work. I like this scene with the parent teacher conference scene when they decided to get a in some of the class, but when they get a B in Spanish, they get really pissed off about it. So that was a clever joke. The ending joke killed me when I saw my uncle die. I saw my uncle. He went in my hand. Let me guess, he died. Like that. I love that. I think the animation starting to look great. I think it's going to be good. I say I've been following people on Twitter for a while now. Similar to the fact that hearing nothing but good things about both things from coming out during that two great comic book movie that month. But I'm looking forward to this. This is my most anticipated movie this summer. I love Spider-Verse to death. I watch it every year. My favorite Spider-Man movie. This looks just as good. I have more hope for this because of director, because of writer, because even the first movie did not have great trailer and did not portray how great the movie actually was. So we've seen it happen before with the first Spider-Verse movie. So I have hope.
Caleb?
And I've been hearing the same thing I hear about the Flat that actually is really great. When people have seen it.
I mean, I'm sure. I'm kind of in a similar camp to Aaron. Fully, I expect it to be good, but based on the trailer, I don't. I didn't like the trailer that much. I did. Kind of like Aaron said, it's sort of like trying to be misleading, or is it being just on the nose? With Spider-Man 2099 and all these other things, but it looks like fun. I'm excited to see Vulture in there. I saw who was it? We see Spider-Woman, Issa Rae playing Spider-Woman. I'm pretty excited about that. Especially if they do Spider-Woman right, because she's very mystical and has more magic powers, which is very cool for the visual, especially a lot of the visuals you see in that trailer kind of look like her teleportation webs and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what they do. But I found the trailer kind of underwhelming and a little bit what's going on here? What, like you said, what is the story? I also thought it was like a little bit strange. Like it looks like they aged them up, but isn't it supposed to start right at the end of the first movie?
Oh, yeah.
I don't understand why Miles and Gwen are aged up.
I don't believe so. I think the end of the first movie was just meant. Well, so I think the end of the first movie was just meant to establish that they have a way to communicate with each other. I think there is a time jump though.
No, but like the beginning of the trailer is literally her being like, "Hey, Miles, are you doing anything or whatever?"
I think it's like more of a metaphor than a literal.
But they actually show her. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
I could be wrong though.
That was just a little bit of like confusion there. I was like, why do they look aged up? Because it makes sense that they aged them up, but like if it's starting from this point, I don't know. So yeah, again, it was confusing. I'm super looking forward to the movie though. It could fail, but like I've got very high hopes for it being awesome. Like you said, Lord and Miller are writing again. And shoot, I don't remember who you said is directing, but
the director of Soul.
Yeah. So like, I mean, great track records all the way around. I think Lord and Miller are pretty great. Their writing styles and the amount of detail that they put into their stories, even in the backgrounds, are insane. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great movie. I wasn't super blown away by the trailer.
Let me ask you guys this quickly. Because the two trailers that came out for it, you think Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire didn't show up because they used that in the other two trailers that came out that day?
I don't think so.
I don't think they'll be. Can I just say though, like I hated that line. Like that's the only line that I hated in this trailer was the like. It doesn't even, and again, it's probably a sect of a conversation that they've inserted into the trailer, but like. And I love Spider-Man No Way Home, don't get me wrong. But one of my biggest criticisms of that film is that it feels like it's fan service a lot of the time for the sake of fan service, just to get people hyped. And I don't want this movie to become that as well. And throwing in a line like, and don't even get me started, Wizard and the Spider-Man from Universe 19999, which was the original designation of the universe before they started calling it 616.
And if you want the London version of the trailer, they added like Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire, like Spider-Man and lines right in the beginning of the trailer. Like,
that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I personally, I was not a fan of that. Again, like the whole point of the crossover element of this film is that it's a part of the plot of it. Let's use it let's use it to bring in cool things we'd never see otherwise. Yeah. I don't need another cheap appearance from Tom Holland and from Tobey Maguire and from Andrew Garfield. Like, just, can we move forward?
I like to make sense since they have so many Spider-Man from many of the different
They already hijacked one Spider-Man film series to do fan service the movie. Can we not do it a second time?
I mean, technically the plot is almost similar to No Way Home. It's just like
I will just say categorically, as a fan, I love being service, so I got no problem with it.
Sure you do, Jake. All right, let's move on to the Star Wars Celebration stuff because I'll give you guys because we want to make sure we give you guys a chance to talk about Dungeons and Dragons as well at the end of this show. By the way, Jonathan did say it in the chat. The Dungeons and Dragons will be the last thing we'll talk about just because, I guess, spoiler alert for the discussion. I haven't seen the film. So I know you've seen it, Chris. You're here. I haven't seen the film. Unfortunately, neither has Jake. So he'll be leaving before we get to that point. So it'll be more just of a back and forth between Caleb and Chris, just sort of discussing the film. That's why we're sort of saving it a little bit towards the end, especially because we've lost Matt. So the structure that's normally there won't be there only because I haven't seen the film, so I can't create talking points. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump into Star Wars Celebration because Disney basically just came right out with it. I don't know why you're paying attention to Star Wars Celebration past day one because Disney just kind of came out with it and blew their wad very, very quickly. So let's jump into every element of this. So the first thing that they led with is a discussion of projects going forward. And they've basically said that they are, and obviously we'll talk about at the end, They are committed to getting their film segment of the company back on track. But between films and television, their plan is to, between films, television, and then in addition to that, books, comics, web games, I don't know, whatever else, their commitment is to creating content across various different periods of the Star Wars universe. And the periods that they define them by name are Dawn of the Jedi, the Old Republic, the High Republic, which is something that they've done in books already, the Fall of the Jedi, which would be the prequels, Reign of the Empire, which would be the area that Rogue One and Solo is set, Age of the Rebellion, the original trilogy, the New Republic, which would be where Mandalorian is set, Rise of the First Order, which is the sequel trilogy, and then the New Jedi Order, which is, we'll get to later where they're going with that. And so everything that they announced over the course of this day, the idea is we are developing something that takes place in every sect of this universe so that you can see the various developments of the Star Wars universe, which I do think is a cool idea, that they are kind of grand encompassing the idea. So let's jump into it. So the first thing that they brought out was off the back of its incredible success last year, Andor, which we already knew Andor was getting a season 2. The show is greenlit for 2 seasons, and that's all it's going to be. It's 24 episodes total. And they brought out Tony Gilroy, who's the showrunner for the show. He's also written a lot of the episodes, and they brought out some of the cast members, and they revealed that they actually began production on season 2 back in November. However, it's an incredibly long shoot with, I believe, a couple breaks here and there. So they're going to be shooting all the way through this upcoming August, with a view to release the project next year, 2024. So the idea being season 2 will come out roughly a year and a half to 2 years after the first season. It was confirmed that all the major players from season 1, Diego Luna, Kyle Soler, Adria Ayorna, Stellan Skarsgård, and Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma are returning for season 2 and continuing their plots. They've also announced that actor Benjamin Bratt is joining the show in an important role in season 2. And there was footage that was shown of the season at Star Wars Celebration that was not made public, but the footage included the characters of Cassian Andor, Diego Luna, Cyril Karn, played by Kyle Soler, and Mon Mothma, played by Genevieve O'Reilly. So because there's more to talk about in the show itself, I want to briefly ask you guys, what were your thoughts on Andor if you checked it out, and what's kind of your excitement level to see what is essentially part 2 of this story? It's almost like you got the first half of the movie with season 1, now you're going to get the second half. What are your guys' thoughts? Caleb?
I'm gonna be honest, I kind of totally checked out of Star Wars TV shows after the last couple of years. So I have not seen Andor. I've heard it's very good though.
So good.
And I'm excited that they're actually planning on doing this like limited series, and they're going to they seem to be sticking to plan. That sounds pretty cool, and that'll make me want to actually watch it.
Jake?
Yeah, I started Andor, never finished it. I just kind of ended up on the back burner. I liked it well enough, just not. It obviously didn't knock my socks off or anything to the point where I had to finish it. But yeah, I'll probably get back into it maybe after Mando ends or some shit.
Chris?
Yeah, I don't know.
I finished the whole show. I watched it all the way when it was airing. This is my favorite Star Wars show out right now.
Wow.
I think it's the best written show from Star Wars. I think, like, the Prison Break episode alone, I think one of the best out of television last year, especially, what it means to sacrifice speech by Bill, like, Stellan Skarsgård, one of the best monologue I ever heard in Star Wars, any television show. The acting, I think, is great. I think Tony Gilroy should be running Star Wars now, because he understands what Star Wars is and does a phenomenal job thing with the writer, making you care about the character, especially Cassie. And I think Stellan Skarsgård fantastic. I think the way they did Mark Martin was great. Andy Serkis was phenomenal when he was in the show. Like,
all right, Chris. Brief thoughts.
Yeah. But I love this show. I can't wait for season 2. I hope they bring K2SO into season 2, like to tie it up into Rogue One.
Yes. So I'm with you though. Just to briefly, I do it. I think Mandalorian season 1 is probably stronger, but the only real issue I had with Andor is that it does feel like the first half of a story. I was kind of left feeling a little unsatisfied by the end of it because nothing was resolved. Specifically, Kyle Solar's character, who is an Imperial who has a run-in with Andor in the first episode, and you kind of just continue to follow his story with no real arc or resolution, and it's clear that it's leading into something important in season 2 because it was developed as a 24 episode show. It just, I don't know. I feel like maybe they should have done what they're doing with Daredevil, which is they're shooting all 18 episodes and airing it all at once. I don't know if I would have waited a year and a half to air the second part of it. But that's just me. But I do think it's really, really well done. So we did also get some behind-the-scenes news on the show for anyone who's curious. All 4 writers from season 1, Stephen Schiff, Tony Gilroy, Dan Gilroy, and Bo Willman are returning to write for season 2. Both the seasons were written basically at the same time, so they already wrote the scripts. It's the same writers. The 3 directors from season 1, however, Susanna White, Toby Haynes, and Benjamin Caron are not returning for season 2. Instead, they are going to be replaced by Ariel Kleinman, Jonas Metz, and Alonso Ruiz Palacios. For anyone who wants to know what they've done, Ariel Kleinman is an Australian filmmaker who is currently directing on the show Yellow Jackets on Showtime. And he will direct 6 of the 12 episodes. He'll be sort of the lead director of the bunch. Jonas Metz was the director of the tennis film Borg McEnroe a few years ago. Okay. He'll be directing 3 of the episodes for the show. And then Alonso Ruiz Palacios is a Mexican director who's done a couple of small indies. He'll also direct 3 episodes of the season. Which kind of fits the first one. The directors of the first season were all smaller directors, a lot of television work. So, yeah, it's very disconnected. I think even if you don't necessarily get into The Mandalorian or anything that's doing, I think Andor could be for you. I think if you enjoyed Rogue One, I think you'll certainly enjoy Andor. And again, I'm looking forward to season 2 because I liked what the show presented. I just felt that it wasn't complete. So you're getting the completion of it. And then the other thing is that they reconfirmed. So season 1 was a pretty chronological story. It is the story of how Andor came to join the rebellion, and it takes place over a course of a couple of months. Season 2 is going to be an anthology season that'll take place over the next 4 years between the end of season 1 and the start of Rogue One, and it'll just be focusing on various important points and missions that he was a part of during the buildup of the rebellion.
Cool.
So it'll also probably be a little more, because the first season was a little slower. It was a little more dramatic, performance heavy, a lot of great performances. If anyone wants to see what Andy Serkis can really do when he's not in a mocap suit, he's excellent in the show.
Same with Stellan Skarsgård. You want to see him get the best monologue in the Star Wars show.
So yeah, I think it's worth checking out. Obviously, not a lot of new news there because the show's mostly there, but also cool to check out. So that was the first thing they brought out. The second bit of Star Wars that they brought out is the Acolyte, which is being developed by Russian doll creator Leslie Headland. Nice. She is in charge of this. So the Acolyte is the first show that will take place during the High Republic, the period between the Old Republic and the prequels. The Acolyte, this is the synopsis that was given. The Acolyte is set at the end of the High Republic era in a world of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers, approximately 100 years before Star Wars Episode 1. A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. The show will star Amandla Stenberg of The Hunger Games and The Hate You Give as a former Jedi Padawan who walked away from the Jedi, who is the protagonist of the show. She will reunite with her former master, who's played by Lee Jung-jae, who was the lead of Squid Games, for anyone who saw that. The show will also feature actors Rebecca Henderson, Charlie Barnett, and brought it up earlier, Logan and His Dark Materials star Daphne Keane as young Jedi in training under Jung-jae's Jedi Master. The supporting cast is also made up of Carrie-Anne Moss and who's playing a Jedi, and Junis Sutamo, I think is how his name is said. Junis was the actor who played Chewbacca in the sequel films. He took over. He'll be playing Kelnaka, a Wookiee Jedi Master, which will be the first time we'll see a Wookiee Jedi Master on screen. The remaining cast is rounded out by Jodie Turner-Smith, Dean Charles Chapman, and The Good Place's Mandy Jacinto is rumored to be playing the lead antagonist of the show.
Nice.
Interesting.
This is a weird-ass show. It's a weird-ass idea. It's set during a period of Star Wars that we've never seen. Russian Doll was a weird-ass show, and now she's running a Star Wars show.
Yeah.
I love everything about this.
I love Russian Doll.
I love everything about this. This is exactly what Star Wars needs. It needs new, fresh energy being injected into it. It's also been said the series is 8 episodes long and will release to Disney Plus in 2024. What are your guys' thoughts on that? And for what it's worth, on stage, Hedlund said that her pitch to Kathy Kennedy was, "What if we did Frozen meets Kill Bill?"
Fuck yeah, sign me up. You had me at Wookiee.
you
You had me at
sign me up
Wookiee
for that.
Jedi.
You had me right there for a moment with the
We've
Frozen.
had Wookiee Jedi in Clone Wars. Come on,
Yeah.
it's happened already.
Well, live action.
Well, Aaron
You're right.
lied.
My bad. Live action.
Damn it.
Sure.
Uh,
But yeah, I'm very excited for some original stuff coming out. Like I don't even know that there's really, not that I'm like I've gone too far down the novel rabbit hole or anything, but like I'm not even aware of much of like the legends that have to deal with that time period. So like yeah, absolutely, give us some original stories in Star Wars. Yes, please. And then they can set up stuff that's going to happen in the future shows that are set in the future. If that, yeah. And I don't know, probably lead up to some like pretty cool stuff. Like I imagine there'll be like some references to like Thrawn and stuff like that. Just like leading into the. I don't even remember what you. Yeah, leading into Ahsoka stuff.
It's set. Well, this is set 100 years before even the prequels.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right.
Would it be alive?
So we're looking more at like
Rise,
early, maybe like Rise of Palpatine or that type of Sith rising type of thing.
Right.
For what it's worth, if you guys are curious, so similar to Andor, footage was shown from what seems to be a trailer at Star Wars Celebration. There was a description of the Andor footage, but it was mostly dialogue scenes, so it's not worth reading. However, because this was a trailer, there was a bit more footage in there. So the opening shots of the trailer focus on Lee Jung-jae's character instructing younglings, which includes Daphne Keene's character. We hear some dialogue from him. We then cut to a scene at a bar where Carrie-Anne Moss's Jedi is seen fighting a hooded assassin who has knives that can repel a lightsaber. We then get a shot of Manny Jacinto's character who is seen wielding a yellow lightsaber. And then it ends on a brief shot of a fight sequence in which 8 lightsaber-wielded characters are in a overlapping battle.
You had me sold on the cast. I love Amanda Steinberg. I love a lot of the cast in there. I think is it one of the directors, the Daniels from Everything Everywhere Else?
No, that's a different show.
Yeah, but I love Russian Doll. One of my favorite Netflix shows. So you had me sold. I think this could be what Star Wars needs right now. Kind of similar to Andor. That's something new. That to change something. When it does, I tell you the same story we already been told about the character we already knew. Why?
For sure.
Yeah.
Right. So the directors of this show are Leslie Headland herself will direct episodes. And then it'll also have episodes directed by Alex Garcia Lopez, who I can't find any information on. And then South Korean filmmaker Koko Nada, who directed After Yang last year, will also be directing.
Good movie.
The show.
All right.
Yeah, we still there.
So there we go. So those are the 3 directors that took on the 8 episodes. So overall,
Lots of
Caleb,
young
Jake, you guys haven't
directors.
said as much. What are your guys' thoughts before we move on?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I'm all on board for this. I desperately
Every
want
kid's a little badass.
to see some creating Star Wars lore that like can actually hold up, as opposed to so you mentioned that like Andor, like the big thing is him like joining the
Rebellion,
rebels, or which doesn't make any sense because in the freaking movie he said he was been in the fight since he was 8 years old. So like, I mean, that was the main reason I didn't even watch the show. I was like, this doesn't
So
make sense.
they do. This is a light spoiler. The show does explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. But it's like
So-
it's not.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. So basically, how the show goes about it is the planet that he grew up on is empire occupied,
Yeah.
and the citizens of it are very against it, but it's technically not aligned with the rebellion.
Right.
So it's like it is a rebellion, but it's not the rebellion. It's a technicality. I'm just
For sure. That's
No,
what I'm
you're
saying.
right.
So like I'm tired of that kind of Star Wars storyline. So if you're giving me something new and exciting, I will eat that shit up with the biggest spoon.
Absolutely. So the next thing that they moved on to is The Mandalorian, which of course is currently airing now weekly on Disney Plus. At this point, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Rick Famuyiwa, who joined the producing creative team for the show this season, all took the stage. Pedro Pascal was also there via video message. He was not physically there, although when was the last time he was physically there for The Mandalorian anyways?
Right.
Considering, I believe it's been confirmed that I don't think he shot any real footage of this season, which is why the stuntmen are now receiving credit on the episodes, which is cool. They're getting credited as actors.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I've been on Latif's dick forever.
So they took the stage and they spoke about the show. And one of the things that was sort of talked about in the last week with the latest episode is that the episode sort of wrapped up the arc that the season was building towards, which is the regrouping of Mandalorians all under Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan character. And episode 6 sort of wrapped up that plot line a little earlier than you'd think an 8-episode season would. And they actually addressed that directly on stage. And they said that the final 2 episodes of this season, which are both directed by Rick Famuyiwa, are sort of a culmination of everything that's come before in the show. They said there are elements from seasons 1, 2, and even the Book of Boba Fett that come into play in these final 2 episodes. And while it's not a series finale for the show, as they are already greenlit for a season 4, it is a culmination of the story thus far, and season 4 will sort of create a new jumping off point for itself. They also very highly indicated that season 4 will more than likely be the final season. So if we're talking about this overlapping story over the previous seasons, it'll culminate with this season, and then season 4 will sort of serve as a maybe conclusion to the Din Djarin character played by Pedro Pascal separately. That's basically all they said. There was a little more that would come out about that later in the night, but we'll get to it when we get there. Caleb, I believe you said you're not watching The Mandalorian, so I know there's not much. Are you?
No, I'm not. I haven't watched anything since the Book of Boba Fett, to be honest. It really hurt me. I didn't.
It hurt me too.
And I wasn't the biggest fan of the Bad Batch, so I was just like, all right, maybe these Star Wars shows aren't that good. Just The Mandalorian's good, and I just haven't gotten around to watching the newest season of Mandalorian.
All right, and I know, Jake, we had discussed before. You're also not caught up yet, so I'm not going to go into discussing about it in terms of specific details. But I'll just move on.
I will say I'm looking forward to seeing a conclusion to that story. I think that'd be cool, even if they don't necessarily have to kill off Din Djarin and the child or anything. Like if they can just just end that story, and then maybe 10 years later they'll do something with them again. I don't care. That'd be cool. I would watch if I knew it was the end, if that makes sense.
Right.
And as you were saying, incorporating other elements, I can't wait to see Cara Dune again.
Oh,
I
you're
will-
not. So.
Joke.
Yeah.
That's a joke. Absolutely.
Yeah, I will say.
My favorite part of The Mandalorian season 3 is how they used her. They used the reasoning. So the plan was always to write the character out, except they were going to write her out for her spin-off show, but
Right.
instead they wrote her out because they fired her.
Exactly.
They kept the same reasoning. So they literally have a line of dialogue that sets up that spin-off show that you will never see now because they fired
Yeah.
her.
Well,
So I haven't seen all of the new season. I've seen the first episode. I waited until the season over and watched it with my dad all the way through. I hope next season a little more. From what I understand from my friends, and I understand from people watching, a little more
All right,
structure.
I'm just gonna cut you off just because these guys are a little behind as well.
I'm actually ahead. I'm only down one episode, but yeah, we can move on.
I
haven't seen all of the new season. From what I heard, it haven't been that great. I hope next season be a bit more well with and better structured. From what I heard.
I would say it's. If I had to get technical, it's probably the worst season of the show, but I don't think it means it's a bad season.
Yeah.
Right.
I just think the first 2 seasons set the bar so high, and this season has seen a switch in directors. There's a lot of new directors that have come in, and I just think it's them finding their footing in Star Wars, which a lot of those directors are returning in shows we're going to talk about now in just a moment. So clearly they made an impact at Lucasfilm. So moving on, we'll jump into the next show, and the next 2 shows are all connected to this Mandalorian universe, which this was confirmed here. The next one is Skeleton Crew, which is the show that's being developed by John Watts of the Spider-Man films. So it was confirmed at at Star Wars Celebration that the show is taking place during the same period as the Mandalorian shows, and while it won't be as closely tied into them as Ahsoka and as Book of Boba Fett was, obviously, there will still be clear connections between them. And so it was with this panel, they announced a lot of things for this show, actually. For starters, John Watts said that he was inspired when it came to choosing the directors for this show after his experience working on No Way Home, because when working on No Way Home, he said he had a lot of interplay and communication with different directors. He said he had to speak with Scott Derrickson, because at the time when they were making the movie, Derrickson was still attached to do Spider-Man Spider-Man or Doctor Strange 2. Derrickson was still attached, so he had to speak to Scott Derrickson. He had to communicate with Sam Raimi, because Raimi obviously did the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. He communicated with Mark Webb, because Webb directed the Amazing Spider-Man films. He communicated a lot with Jon Favreau, because Jon Favreau was on set with him and has directed Marvel films. And I believe he also said he spoke a lot with Michael Waldron, who did not write this film, but he wrote other films in the MCU that are connected to the multiverse. And so he said it was a real collaborative effort with a lot of high-profile names and directors that intrigued him of kind of that experience again. And so when he announced the directors panel for the show, which includes himself, John Watts, director David Lowery, who directed the Pete's Dragon remake for Disney, but he's also done a Ghost Story, The Green Knight, a couple years ago, is directing for the show. Recent Best Director winners Daniels are directing for the show, and it was confirmed that they actually shot their episode prior to that film being nominated for Best Picture, so that's just luck on Disney's part that they got that. Jake Shearer, I think is how his name's pronounced, who is directing Thunderbolts from Marvel, is a director on the show. And then returning directors Bryce Dallas Howard, who's directed an episode in every Disney Plus show so far connected to The Mandalorian. She did all 3 seasons and a Book of Boba Fett episode. And then Lee Isaac Chung, the director of Minari, is directing an episode. He directed an episode for season 3 of Mandalorian as well. It was also announced today that in addition to Jude Law and a recent Razzie nominee and then a redaction of that nominee, Ryan Kira Armstrong, Academy Award nominee Kerry Condon is also going to be starring in the show alongside them. So this show's got some pedigree in it. Now, Watts said that the show is a coming-of-age story that will be focused on a set of kids sort of exploring the galaxy, with Jude Law and Kerry Condon being sort of not necessarily parents, but more parental figures. And he said he was inspired by the 80s films like The Goonies and E.T. and thought that we hadn't seen anything like that in the Star Wars universe, hence wanting to make the show.
I was gonna say, do you know if it's based off of that Clone Wars episode?
I don't believe it's connected to any Clone Wars episode specifically, but I'm sure he did speak about like drawing influences from like 80s films as well as previous Star Wars films when putting together the idea. So maybe there was some inspiration behind, okay, Star Wars has done kids episodes before, let's see what they are like to kind of create a dynamic.
Well, actually, like I don't even remember if it was Clone Wars or Rebels, but there was an episode with a group of kids that had stolen like a ship, and I thought it was called Skeleton Crew.
Yeah,
so I wonder if it is going to be that. It was Clone Wars, cool.
Yeah,
and like a
sounds interesting. I don't have too much intelligence to add. I'll be right back.
Okay.
It sounds interesting. I love the Daniel, love the director, love the cast. I hope it's good. I'm not the biggest fan of Bad Batch, some of the more recent stuff. But I hope it's good. Like the director, crews, and everything got me excited.
And unlike the previous series, because they announced when doing this, Andor's 2024. What else? Acolytes 2024. This one is going to be 2023. So this will be coming before the end of the year. This one is furthest ahead of all of them.
All right.
So then we'll move on and we'll jump on to the final show that they discussed here, which is Ahsoka. Now, this also did get a full trailer that released. If you did see it, we can talk about it in a second, but it wasn't included. So Star Wars Ahsoka, which is developed by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. This one is being show ran by Filoni. This serves as a spin-off to the Mandalorian series, and it's also a sequel to Star Wars Rebels, the animated series. We are going to be getting the live-action return of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. In addition to that, multiple Rebels characters will be returning with new live-action actors. Natasha Liu Bordizzo will be playing Sabine Wren. Iman Esfandi will be playing Ezra Bridger. Mary Elizabeth Winstead will be playing Hera Syndulla.
Interesting.
Will be playing those characters. Other returning characters from canon, Hayden Christensen is a part of the cast of the show as Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader, although the capacity to which he's in it is currently unknown. Genevieve O'Reilly will be returning as Mon Mothma once again in this show. Another one I missed from Rebels, Lars Mikkelsen reprises his role as
Zeb.
And Diana Lee, Santo, who was in season 2 of The Mandalorian, in the Ahsoka episode, will reprise her role as Morgan Elsbeth, a servant of Thrawn.
Hey, all right.
I mean,
so there's a lot of, and it's also been said for all you Rebels fans out there, don't worry, Chopper is in the show.
Is Zed in the show?
Back. What'd you say?
Aaron, is Zed in the show? The other Rebel character?
No. As of what they've said.
Interesting. I can't really comment there.
Like randomly, I saw like a picture online of like a CGI Zeb, and I was like,
"Yeah, that level." Okay, now we can talk about it.
I will just say he appears in an episode of season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything because it was a traumatic,
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that's where he comes from. So this series does serve in the plot synopsis. Ahsoka Tano investigates the emerging threat to the galaxy following the fall of the Empire. It's also been confirmed that part of the plot will be continuing the setup at the end of Rebels, which is searching for the Ezra Bridger character. Hence why so many characters from Rebels are returning.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into this. With Ahsoka, they also announced the directorial team for this one. Dave Filoni himself will, of course, be directing episodes of the show. We also have a couple returning directors from previous Star Wars shows. Steph Green, who directed an episode of the Book of Boba Fett, will be returning. Peter Ramsey, who was one of the directors of Into the Spider-Verse, as we talked about earlier, and directed an episode for season 3 of Mandalorian. Will be directing an episode here. We also have the return of Rick Famuyiwa, who directed an episode of this show. And then new directors include Jennifer Getzinger, who directed episodes for Westworld, as well as the Netflix Marvel shows, and Jeeta Patel, who directed an episode of House of the Dragon, in addition to other shows.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot to go there. I don't know as much about Rebels as other people. I have seen the Clone Wars. I've never seen Rebels. Caleb, have you seen Rebels, I'm assuming?
I have. Yeah, I've seen all of that.
So I'll go to you next, because obviously, as somebody who's sort of, and I totally understand it, Book of Boba Fett put you off Star Wars for a little bit. You have not seen Andor. You haven't seen the most recent Mandalorian. You have seen Rebels, and this connects very deeply to that as well. What are your thoughts on them sort of taking this live action and making that continuation?
I think it opens up the world into a lot of places that I think are going to be very interesting to see. Especially since, like, in Rebels, where Ahsoka is kind of left off in Rebels is like something that is super interesting to me. So getting that kind of tie-in will be very cool. I don't know. I'm pretty excited for it. Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera is going to be very interesting. But everybody else, I'm pretty excited for. I've been wanting to see Sabine in live action. I'm pretty excited for it. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely a selling point that would get me to watch it.
Absolutely. And so I was going to bring up as well, just because on the point of Rebels, to give you something else to talk about, the trailer, which this was the only trailer that they did release publicly. The trailer has caught a lot of attention from people because, and this character's in the scene, so I'll reference it. Ray Stevenson of the MCU and other projects is in the show, playing a new character developed for the show named Baylan Skoll. He is a former Jedi who survived Order 66, who is now an ally to Thrawn. There's a shot in the trailer in which he appears. Now, the first thing you notice about the shot is that he holds an orange lightsaber, which immediately caught people's attention. The thing that followed, though, is you see that he is fighting Ahsoka Tano in, I believe it's called The World Between Worlds, is what they call it, which is done up in live action now. And there's a fight sequence within that world. Now, I know that was connected to Rebels, so if you could try and explain what that is and what you think the significance of that is going back to it.
Oh,
Kelly, you want to explain it, or do you want me to explain it? Up to you.
I don't know. That's a big question.
Yeah, it's complicated to explain because it's coming in the last season of Rebels.
Yeah. So Rebels goes a lot more into like the mysticism and I don't know, like the magic of Star Wars, I guess, in that later season.
And you to prevent stuff from happening, right? You to enter a moment in time. They established that Rebel, that how Ahsoka was able to survive her battle against Darth Vader and Rebel. Right.
So they find a temple that is a Force temple, I guess, that has. So you've seen Clone Wars, so you know there's like 3 kind of deities.
Yes.
So there's the Father, the Son, and the daughter. So with their powers combined or whatever, they like open up a portal into this world between worlds. That's like it's basically a tear in time and space, so that like
time travel in a way
through the Force. Yeah, but like it's also like space. Like it's literally like you can go anywhere in the universe as long as you follow the right pathways or whatever.
Okay.
And you just save somebody, like they save Ahsoka, and
it's essentially like hyperspace. The idea of like hyperspace lanes, except you can walk it You can traverse it like as a person.
You can just walk through.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
As long as you know the way, you can
Okay.
get anywhere
Yeah.
in any time.
Okay, so I can wrap my head around that a little bit because another friend, I asked someone else to explain it to me so that I could understand it a bit more, and their response was, "It's like the multiverse, but for Star Wars." So I can sort of get where you're getting at now with the
It involves
explanation. Okay.
time travel and way you to enter a moment in time to say somebody did a whole plot line Rebel with Kate and
Okay,
everything.
cool. So then, Chris,
so in
Caleb, I'll
that-
go to you guys first because you've seen it.
Hmm.
What do you think of the idea of them bringing that element of it back into the show?
So I watched all of Rebel whenever it aired. I love Rebel. I love the trailer. Racing everything got me excited. Strawn. Finally live action. And like I got so excited seeing Strawn. Like I've seen a late photo of trailer what he looked good. Yeah, I'm looking for it. This is my more anticipated Star Wars show, honestly, because of the cast. I love Zoe Dawson in Mandalorian when she pop up as Ahsoka. And she is my cousin lookalike in a lot of ways. So yeah, got me sold. Can't wait. This is my most anticipated Disney Plus show this year so far.
I'd agree. It's pretty exciting. I think Rebels started out as not really great, but in those later seasons, where it gets like incredible, super good. So I'm very excited for that, especially the things that I was hinting at before, getting the world between worlds, getting into the deities and the mysticism, and the ideas of, there's like an in-between deity at one point in that show that it seems like they'll probably tie that in. I would expect them to tie that in, especially since it's Ahsoka and she's in that world. In Rebels, she's literally left in the world between worlds. Like,
Yeah.
that's the last place you see her.
No, you see her approach to being at the end of Rebel. Like there's a scene. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I misremembered then. But yeah, that's super enticing to me. I don't know what an orange lightsaber means. That's interesting. You mentioned the yellow lightsaber, and I was like, oh yeah, Sentinel. I love that. I'm ready for that to happen. So I'll have to look into what an orange lightsaber means. But everything about this, it kind of makes me excited.
And I did misspeak. They didn't name a specific week, but Ahsoka, it was originally thought to be coming out in 2024, but at Celebration, they said it'll come out in August of this year.
Okay.
So it is a few, which it did shoot earlier, so that makes sense. So it is a few months away.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, I'll go to you because you had stepped out while we started it. What are your thoughts on Ahsoka? Did you see the trailer or the show in general?
Yeah, I did really dig the trailer. I have been on Rosario Dawson's dick since 2006 with Clerks 2, obviously. I haven't seen either of the animated shows, but I did see Clone Wars, the movie. And I really, I like Ahsoka's character. I like Ahsoka's character quite a bit, though, from that movie.
Okay.
So that was her introduction. I believe the movie came first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah.
Well, technically, like season 2 of episode 3 came first, and then it was like season 1, episode 16.
Yeah, that tracks.
And then the animated Clone Wars show that came before the animated Clone Wars.
The movie came out before the show.
Yeah.
My favorite part of like the fucked up ordering of airing of Rebels is how like the movie itself is just a series of combined episodes, but the episode that sets up the movie didn't air till season 3.
Yeah.
My favorite thing. My favorite thing when people look up Clone Wars, they see 2 Clone Wars shows, and it like the Cartoon Network one, and then the one.
The other one's dope. It's not canon, but check that one out too.
Yeah.
That one's dope.
Yeah, so good.
The Gendy Tartakovsky one. Yeah.
So we'll jump over now into the films that were announced because they announced 3 films. Funny enough, technically, Rian Johnson's trilogy and Taika Waititi's film have never been announced as canceled. We've heard all sorts of other projects go underwater, right? Benioff and Weiss were supposed to work with Star Wars.
Eddie Jenkins.
Their deal fell off. Patty Jenkins was supposed to direct Rogue Squadron. That never went through. Waititi and Johnson's deals have never been publicly disregarded. So there is a chance that those films also are still in development and they just haven't said anything. And that's happened with their shows as well, right? They've said multiple times that Lando still exists. Even Donald Glover recently said that Lando still exists. But Justin Simeon's been busy directing Haunted Mansion, and Donald Glover was busy finishing up his music career / Atlanta. So nothing's been done on it yet. But he's just finishing up his side quests. So nothing's been done on it yet, but it does still exist at Disney. So the 3 films that they announced, and we're going to come off the back of these shows to talk about the first one, which is the Dave Filoni film. Now, all they said at Star Wars Celebration is that Dave Filoni will be making his feature film debut in the Star Wars universe. And in general, he'll be directing a live-action film, and that it'll be set during the time period between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, which is where all these shows he's been working on have been set. Now, following that, a report came out that apparently this movie is going to be some sort of crossover of all of these shows that exist. Originally, the plan was to do this as a series on Disney Plus that would sort of culminate this storyline that includes. Originally, it was supposed to include the 5 shows. Obviously, Rangers of the New Republic got cut, but it was supposed to be this sort of culminating storyline that would see Giancarlo Esposito's Moff Gideon and Grand Admiral Thrawn at the center of it. Purportedly, they found a way to streamline it into a movie instead. They felt they didn't have enough for a show, so they're going to instead go for sort of this epic scale movie. And according to this report as well that came out separate from Star Wars Celebration, they're currently in negotiations with all the leading actors to return. So that would include Pedro Pascal, Tamara Morrison, Ming-Na Wen, Rosario Dawson, apparently Jude Law from Skeleton Crew, who is playing a Jedi in that show. He's also involved in this in some capacity. I believe Carl Weathers was named in that report, Giancarlo Esposito, Lars Skarsgård, or not Lars Skarsgård, excuse me, Lars Mikkelsen. Thank you. So a lot of it basically is going to serve as a crossover conclusion to these things, and that's why people sort of said they didn't say that season 4 was the end of Mandalorian, but they sort of indicated it, and that would be because Din Djarin, Pedro Pascal would probably be the lead of this film to some extent, and so this would sort of be the culminating point of that story. We'll talk about this one first before we get into the other two, because there's a little more to dive into. Now, obviously, they didn't say this at Celebration. This was a report that came out separately after the fact. However, the sources on it seem to be good, so it is more than likely what's going to happen. If this is what goes through, what are your guys' thoughts?
Fuck yeah.
Sorry. There we go. No, perfect. I think that's a good summation. Honestly, if you're into what they're doing, that's a good summation.
Yeah, I like him. I don't think I trust Filoni to the ends of the fucking galaxy, far, far away.
I love Filoni. I do. I'm not sure.
The report also said. Sorry to cut you off. The report also said that Filoni will be writing the script with Jon Favreau. That was not said at the event. That was also something that was said later. But this report is indicating that Favreau will still be involved as a producer and writer.
Give me that.
I'm wondering when they would shoot it. Would be the question as well. I know Pascal got The Last of Us right now since that got renewed, and then a few other things. But I look forward to it.
As it's been said, he hasn't been on set for like a long time.
Honestly, they could shoot it without Pedro, because if he only takes his helmet off in the movie, let's say he takes it off again and it's for like one scene, then you only need him to shoot that one scene at this point. And apparently Pedro Pascal himself advocated, the 2 stuntmen that have played the character, Brandon Wayne and Lateef Crowder, he's more than comfortable with them taking over the role physically as much as they would like to and as much as the studio is willing to let them, which is why they're now credited this season as actors in the show.
Oh yeah.
I don't wait and see until how Ahsoka turn out and how Skeleton turn out, because I want to see how they all turn out before I get excited for a movie, because you have Mandalorian, but we also had 2 baby batches and we saw what happened with Boba Fett.
I mean, true.
Yeah. I think Boba Fett's biggest mistake was letting Robert Rodriguez take creative lead. I think even though Mando season 3 isn't quite as good as the first 2 seasons, I think there's a vast improvement in having Rick Famuyiwa take over creative lead than Robert Rodriguez. I just don't. He made a good one-off episode of that show. I don't think he was ever the right choice to take over at that capacity.
And the
He's
best
doing-
episode of Boba Fett was the episode with Mandalorian. That was pretty much it. Yeah.
I mean,
Which, for what it's worth, were made by Bryce Dallas Howard and Dave
Yeah.
Filoni, who were Mandalorian directors. So that's part of it.
Exactly.
Caleb?
I think Dave Filoni is the closest thing we're gonna get to a George Lucas Star Wars again. I think he's got like a really good head on his shoulders in terms of where this world is and what's happening. He knows the lore. He knows the people to ask if he doesn't know. I think it's the best thing that could happen for a Star Wars movie is to have Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau write and direct this movie, especially if it's going to be the culmination and hopefully conclusion of this big Star Wars MCU.
I was going to say
that they're doing.
Our articles online were jokingly calling it Mandalorian Endgame.
Avengers, yeah.
I think we will be seeing it for another couple years because
I don't think it's coming out soon. I think. It's,
Well, yeah. Well, at the very least, they're going to have to shoot Mando season 4 first, and
Right.
that's not accounting for the fact. I don't think they're going to do a season 2 of Boba Fett, but that's not accounting for the fact that Ahsoka or Skeleton Crew could get another season as well.
right.
We don't know quite yet. So we'll jump into the second film here, which is director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, who we already knew was making a film, is now confirmed to be directing a sequel to the sequels. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, who is actually mostly known as a documentarian filmmaker, she made her directorial debut on Miss Marvel, the Marvel show. She directed episodes 4 and 5 of that show.
Okay, you have me.
She is going to become the first woman to direct the first woman to direct a Star Wars film.
Yeah.
The film will be a sequel to the sequel set 15 years after The Rise of Skywalker, focusing on the now a second attempt and proper rebuilding of a new Jedi Order. Daisy Ridley is confirmed to return in the role of Rey. However, it's currently unknown if anybody else from that trilogy will play a major part in the film. For what it's worth, John Boyega and Oscar Isaac have both kind of publicly said they're not interested in returning. And I read a report separately that believed that Boyega may have even been fielded an offer and already turned it down. So odds are it won't quite be a continuation of the trilogy, but certainly a continuation of Rey's story following the rise of Skywalker. They said that apparently they're taking inspiration from elements of previous lore, specifically Jedi Academy, in terms of how they're sort of going about the film. The story for the movie was developed by writer Damon Lindelof, who then stepped off the project. Writer Stephen Knight of Peaky Blinders will take over and write the script from there.
Okay, you got me there, and you got me with Damon Lindelof a little bit.
Yeah. We're on the same page, Chris.
Leftovers was great.
Leftovers were great, but he had wrote in some really not so great stuff before.
So obviously the sequel trilogy was incredibly divisive. We could have a whole 2-hour discussion on those alone. So removing opinions of the sequel trilogy, I'll start with you, Jake. What are your thoughts on the idea of seemingly, because it's not a trilogy, it's just a one-off, a sequel continuing the story of the character Rey?
I like Daisy Ridley a lot. I like Rey. She's an interesting character to me. I'm not mad at the sequels. I like Miss Marvel a lot. I like, so I'm going to be, again, pro this. Maybe I'm just the happy judge in this episode of American Idol.
Potato, you go first.
Who's the Paula?
You're
Of you three, who's the
definitely
Paula?
Paula Abdul. Tato's definitely the Paula Abdul.
Tato's the Paula. All right, who's going to start saying dog?
Potato. I have maybe a little bit more.
Tato can't be Paula and Randy.
No, he said potatoes. It's me.
Oh, okay.
Because I do be the same character, so you go first, Potato.
You'll be this time.
All right, look here, dog. It sounds cool and everything, but I'm not sure if you got the heat. No, anyways, I'm not going to continue trying to do a Randy Jackson impression. I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that it's not going to be entirely Ray centric. I wouldn't mind seeing Ray coming in a sequels style that they did, like Luke Skywalker or something, where she's a tertiary character talking to somebody else that shows up for maybe half the movie. Isn't the what's it called, the linchpin of the movie? Yeah. Like I hope the whole movie
and it is work. The articles have been phrasing it, as far as like writers who have been told to write from the event, they are phrasing it as she is returning. There's technically so far no wording that says she's the main character.
Right.
It's just that the story will be continuing with her as a part of it, and it'll be picking up where her journey to an extent left off with the rebuilding of the Jedi.
Right. And like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Chris, any thoughts?
So I'm to mine here. I like Rey up until Rise of Skywalker. I don't like what they did with her Rise of Skywalker a lot. Especially the Skywalker name at the end really pissed me off as a Star Wars fan. If they did retcon the ending of it, was that she's not Skywalker, let's just put it there. And be a little bit happy. I love Miss Marvel. I love Peaky Blinders a lot. Those are the two scenes.
Specifically episodes 3 and 4 too. Like those are good episodes.
Yeah. So those two scenes got me excited because I do love both property a lot. I love Peaky Blinders to death. I can't wait for the movie. But yeah, I'm nervous for it because the sequel did leave a bad taste in my mouth with the last one, even though I like Last Jedi and I like Force Awakens a lot. Like, still hoping because someone to get better. I still have hope. Like, despite it up and down lately, and over the best thing, I hope this trend continue and it's positive.
I mean, you want to talk about up and downs? Let's talk about the originals and the prequels. You want to talk about an up and down journey? That's all Star Wars has ever been.
Yeah.
So then we'll get to the final project that was announced here, which is following this, James Mangold then took the stage, in which it was announced that he is directing a Star Wars film as well. I believe he'll also be writing the screenplay. A separate report said that he'll be reuniting with the writers that wrote Ford v. Ferrari and Indiana Jones with him, although that's not officially confirmed. They weren't at Celebration, only he was. James Mangold's film is the project that will take place in what they said earlier. The name they used is, where is it? Fuck, I had it here.
I mean, KOTOR?
The Dawn of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So Mangold said that his film is going to be focused on... Chris, stop laughing at jokes the audience can't see. James Mangold's film is going to...
James Mangold's film.
James Mangold's film is going to be focused on the Dawn of the Jedi. It's going to be focused on, essentially, he described it as the birth of the Force in this universe and sort of the first figures that really feel it and begin to understand it. He described the film as, quote, the most biblical that Star Wars will ever get. And again, a side report that was not mentioned at Celebration said that apparently Filoni has been discussing with him ways to go about making the movie. Not that he'll write it necessarily, but he's certainly been in communication with him. Yes. And that Mangold said he's looking forward to sort of bringing an epic element to Star Wars in a way that maybe it hasn't had before, or epic in a different sense, which obviously James Mangold, director of Logan, director of Ford v. Ferrari, this is a different caliber than I think we've ever had before. And here's hoping that it works out. They also said, and actually Peck does bring this up in the chat as well, this movie is a little bit a ways away. Following Indy 5, he does already have a project set. He'll be directing a Bob Dylan biopic.
Yeah.
And he's also working with DC on Swamp Thing. So this movie is a little ways away. It's not quite coming yet. But Mangold just continues to keep himself a busy man and will be working towards it. We then got the end of this. we did get the end of this panel in which Mangold stayed on stage following what was thought to be the conclusion of the Star Wars panel, and he talks about kind of his work and then mentions the fact that he's got experience in Star Wars before, at which point Mads Mikkelsen and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, both who appeared in Star Wars, take the stage, and they display the next trailer for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, because it's a Lucasfilm property, and it stars 3 people who have all been in Star Wars movies, and now he's directing a Star Wars film. So they just use this as a cheap opportunity to play a trailer.
They did the same thing last year with Willow, so not surprising.
Yeah, so and then they sent people home with that. So there you go. Well, let's hope this movie does better than Willow did.
Yeah, very much so.
So there's that. So that is everything. What are your guys' thoughts on Mangold's film? We're going to start with the voice of God in the back. Are you there?
I am there.
The dear God at me, Margaret.
Hello.
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 How's it going, Matt?
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hey,
Am I
God, what
heard?
do you think of James Mangold? You are heard.
There we go. He said biblical epic. I just need to hear biblical. And I am sold as God. I better see Jesus, my son. Played by Keanu Reeves.
It's James Mangold. It's Hugh Jackman or nothing.
Yeah,
Hugh Jackman
Matt Damon
works
or
too.
nothing.
maybe Christian Bale.
Maybe
Matt-
Bale. Bale's also
Christian
good.
Bale.
Maybe
was
Matt Damon.
in
Yeah.
That really
Christian
bad
Bale would actually
Ridley
probably
Scott
convert to
movie.
like
Um,
Harrison Ford.
My son.
Russell Crowe.
Oh, now we're just getting silly.
Well, Matt's back, so yeah.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on the panel? Quickly, we'll go around. What are your guys' thoughts on Mangold's film? The idea of it.
Again, based on what I know from the animated shows about the history of the first people that interacted with the Force and stuff, I think that's again one of those things that I've always wanted Star Wars to do in movies and TV more. So I'm on board for that. I think James Mangold is pretty great. His track record is pretty up there for in terms of putting out just banger movies.
Only one bad movie.
And in terms of like I don't know that we've ever seen him do anything quite that biblical in scale, but I think I've got a full faith that he could pull it off really well. And if he is consulting with Filoni, who is the guy who worked out the entire concept of that early mysticism stuff, he worked that out with George Lucas. So if Mangold is meeting with Filoni, that can only be positive in my estimation. So that's like super exciting.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that, to be honest. That's really really fucking exciting.
I'm a big Mango fan since Pretend to Humor. That my first movie I saw.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I bought the line actually with one of them. I forgot that came out 3 years before that. But I love James Mango. I think he's great director. He only made one movie I don't like. I don't like Kate and Leopold that much compared to all of his other movies. Like, and then
that was a
Wolverine.
pretty good one.
And then the Wolverine was good. Dandy just sucks at the Wolverine. But yeah, I
was gonna
think
say-
it's great.
Sorry. go ahead.
Okay. I think it's great. This is the closest we ever get to something close to Night of the Old Republic, like the old era back then. So I all for that.
That's
And
pre Old
Yeah.
Republic.
yeah, but still close to that era, like pre Old Republic or right
Right.
around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might
Right,
lead
right now, they have said that at some point they will dive into the Old Republic in film and television, just not yet. As of now, there's nothing officially in the works.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. I like Mango. I'm happy we're getting something different than just like connected to all of the other characters that we've been seeing lately. Like, so yes, Mango is the best director choice for Star Wars in a long while. This is the right director. Hopefully, it doesn't get canceled like every other director we get excited for lately for Star Wars.
Yeah, it's also worth noting, because you were talking about, before I jump over to James Mangold's track record, I just decided to take a look at using Rotten Tomatoes to kind of get an idea of the consensus around his films. He does have a couple of movies that fall under negative reviews. However, he's never had a film get below a 50% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. His three lowest films are tied at 52% each. Night and Day and Kate Leopold are his two lowest rated films.
All right.
At 53%, Girl Interrupted, although that has a very, very high audience score, so clearly that connected more with audiences.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's kind of a
and then
classic.
his only other film that he was actively involved in, because his fourth negative rated film is The Greatest Showman, which he was only an executive producer on because Hugh Jackman asked him to. That I don't blame that on him at all. Oliver and Company, which he wrote the screenplay for. If nobody knew that, he wrote the screenplay for Oliver and Company, the Disney film, and that is at a 54%. So that's it in terms of bad.
Yet again, so like two of those bad reviewed movies are like considered classics. Like by a lot of people that I know. Like Girl Interrupted was.
He only has one film with a bad audience score, which is Night and Day. That's the only one that has a negative audience score. Everything else is awful.
Like it's fine and not bad movie.
So for a director who's been working as long as he has, that's an incredible track record, all things considered.
100%.
With obviously his highest rated films being Logan, Ford v Ferrari, and 310 to Yuma.
310.
So that's that for Star Wars.
What about Tato?
Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah, Tato. I'm sorry. Your thoughts on James Mangold?
No, that's fair. No, I really, really like Ford v Ferrari, and I love the shit out of Logan. So I'm definitely excited about this, and I had a whole "As a Man of the Lord" bit that I was gonna do, but you can't beat God himself coming in. So,
right.
But I'm excited. This one gets a big thumbs up from me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Indiana Jones trailer is fantastic.
Yeah. So with that said, we're gonna go a little over 2 hours just because there was a lot of news in terms of the Star Wars and all of that, and we were able to kind of have a fuller discussion about that this week. So we're gonna go ahead and instead jump over. We're gonna extend the show a little bit longer. It seems as though God was heard, and now God is seen.
Hey,
my Wi-Fi is barely working.
It's my best friend.
We also did the 15 minutes on Ben Affleck's feet.
We did. We fucked around for a little bit. So we're gonna go over by a few minutes just to let these guys have a chance to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. With that said, though, we're gonna say goodnight to Tato. He has not seen it, sir. So thank you for joining us tonight, man.
Thank you for having catch all you guys on the flip flop. Have a good chat. Good night.
For sure.
Have a good night.
We'll run the show over by a little bit. Matt, you have seen the film. I have not.